The alarm siren screamed across the crystal city of New Harmony, pressed his long fingers against the control panel, and watched the readings with growing fear. The energy shields that protected their colony were failing. Each blast from the enemy ships above made the barriers weaker. "How much time do we have?" asked his assistant, her blue skin pale with worry. "Maybe 6 hours," said. His voice was steady, but inside he felt terror. They had never faced anything like this. They were scientists and artists, not warriors. Their beautiful city was made of living crystal that grew like plants, not metal and concrete built for war. Above them, 12 massive ships hung in the sky like dark clouds. The Void Syndicate had come to take everything. These raiders traveled from system to system, stealing resources and capturing people to sell as slaves. They had heard stories about them, but never thought they would come here. Looked at the communication screen. For 3 days he had been sending messages across the galaxy, begging for help. The responses came back one by one, and they were all the same. "Sorry, too far away. Sorry, too busy fighting our own wars. Sorry, we cannot help you." The Galactic Council's peacekeeping ships were weeks away. The Defense Corps was fighting battles in their own space. The Alliance had problems of their own. Even the mighty fleet said they could not reach the colony in time. "Sir," said another voice from across the room. It was their communications officer, a young named N. "I am picking up movement from the Syndicate fleet." Looked at the tactical display. The enemy ships were getting closer. Small attack craft were leaving the larger vessels and heading toward the surface. The invasion was starting. "Send one more message," said. "Broadcast it on all frequencies. Maybe someone will hear us." He walked to the transmitter and pressed the button. His words went out into the darkness of space, carried by radio waves toward distant stars. "This is Colony New Harmony on 442B. We are under attack by the Void Syndicate. We are peaceful people. We have no weapons. We have no military. Our shields are failing. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We have children here. We have families. Please, if anyone is out there, do not let us die alone." The message traveled through space at the speed of light, but space was vast and light was slow. By the time anyone heard the call for help, it might be too late. The ground shook as the first enemy landing craft broke through the weakening shields. Explosions echoed through the crystal corridors of the city. The Syndicate soldiers were coming. Had seen recordings of what happened to other colonies. The Syndicate would take anyone who looked useful and sell them in slave markets across the galaxy. They would steal anything valuable and destroy the rest. In a few hours, New Harmony would be nothing but broken crystal and empty buildings. "Evacuate the research centers," he ordered. "Get the children to the underground shelters. Maybe some of us can hide until help arrives." But deep in his heart, knew no help was coming. The galaxy was full of advanced civilizations, but none of them cared enough about one small colony to risk their own ships. The strong survived and the weak disappeared. That was how things worked. Touched his arm. "The university has been evacuated. The archives are secured. If we survive this, our knowledge will survive too." "Good," said. At least something would remain of their civilization. They had spent centuries learning about the universe. They had discovered new types of stars and created beautiful art from living light. All of that would be preserved, even if they were not. Another explosion shook the building. Through the transparent walls, they could see dark shapes moving through the city. The Syndicate soldiers wore heavy armor and carried weapons that could melt through crystal. They moved like hunters who knew their prey had nowhere to run. "Sir," and called out, "I am receiving responses to our distress call." His heart jumped with hope. From who? "The Empire says they are sorry but cannot spare any ships. The Vegan Confederacy is dealing with their own problems. The Procyon Alliance wishes us luck but cannot help." One by one, the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy turned their backs on New Harmony. Each message was polite and full of regret, but the meaning was clear. They were on their own. The main shield generator finally died with a sound like breaking glass. The protective barrier around the city flickered and disappeared. Now the syndicate ships could land anywhere they wanted. Watched enemy soldiers pour out of their transport vessels. They moved with practiced efficiency, like they had done this many times before. Some headed toward the research facilities to steal technology. Others went to the residential areas to find people. "Is there anyone else?" he asked then. "Any other signals coming in?" The communications officer checked his instruments. "There is one more message coming in. It is very weak. The signal is traveling a long distance." "Where from?" And looked confused. "The message says it is from something called Earth. I have never heard of this place. It must be very far away because the signal is barely reaching us." Felt his hope die. If this Earth was so distant that their signal was weak, they could never arrive in time to help. Soon the syndicate would break down the doors of the command center and everything would be over. The last free colony on 442b was about to fall, and the galaxy would forget they ever existed. Lieutenant Maria Santos was drinking coffee and reading reports when the alien signal came through. She was working the night shift at Titan Base, humanity's deep space monitoring station. Usually, her job was boring. She listened for signals from Earth's exploration ships and watched for asteroids that might threaten the inner planets. But this signal was different. It was not coming from any human ship. "Commander," she called out, "you need to hear this." Commander Jake Wilson walked over to her station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 20 years and nothing surprised him anymore. But when he heard the alien voice speaking in broken English, his eyes went wide. "This is Colony New Harmony on 442b. We are under attack by the Void Syndicate. We are peaceful people. We have no weapons. We have no military. Our shields are failing. If anyone can hear this, please help us." The message repeated several times, then stopped. Wilson and Santos looked at each other in silence. "How far away is?" Wilson asked. Santos checked her computer. "About 47 light years. The signal took 47 years to reach us." "So this happened 47 years ago?" "No, sir. Look at this." Santos pointed to her screen. "This signal was boosted by some kind of faster-than-light transmitter. The time stamp shows it was sent 3 hours ago." Wilson felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had only developed faster-than-light travel 2 years ago. These aliens had been using it for who knows how long, and now they were asking humans for help. "Send this to Earth immediately," he ordered. "Priority Alpha. The UN Space Command needs to know about this." 5 hours later, Admiral Sarah was sitting in a meeting room on Luna Base, staring at a holographic star map. Around the table sat the most important military leaders in the solar system. They had been debating for 2 hours, and no one could agree on what to do. "We do not even know if these aliens are telling the truth," said General from Mars Command. "This could be a trap. Maybe these Void Syndicate people are trying to lure us into an ambush. Or maybe innocent people are dying while we sit here talking," replied. She was the commander of humanity's and most advanced warship, the UES Defiance. She had joined the Space Navy to protect people, not to debate politics. "Admiral, let us be realistic," said Director Park from the Diplomatic Corps. "We have never met any of these alien species. We do not know their politics or their conflicts. Why should humanity get involved in their war?" Looked at the tactical display. 442b was at the very edge of human jump range. Getting there would require 3 consecutive faster-than-light jumps, with no time to rest between them. It was dangerous. If something went wrong, the Defiance could be lost forever in unknown space. "How many people live on this colony?" she asked. "The signal mentioned families and children," said Commander Torres from Intelligence. "Our analysts think maybe 10,000 people, based on the size of the settlement we can see in telescope images. 10,000 innocent people, said quietly, and no one else in the galaxy is willing to help them. That is not our problem, said. Earth has its own concerns. We should focus on protecting human space, not playing hero for aliens we have never met. The debate continued. Some argued that humanity was too new to space travel to risk their best ship on a rescue mission. Others worried about making enemies of this void syndicate. A few suggested that getting involved in alien conflicts could start a war that humanity could not win. But was not listening to the arguments anymore. She was thinking about her daughter Emma, who was 8 years old and lived on Earth. What if Emma was on that colony? What if human children were trapped and scared while enemy soldiers hunted them? Would want the aliens to debate and delay while her daughter waited for help that never came. I have made my decision, she announced, standing up from the table. The Defiance will depart for 442B in 4 hours. Admiral, you do not have authority to make that choice alone, protested. Yes, I do, said firmly. The UN Charter gives field commanders the right to respond to humanitarian emergencies. This qualifies. You could be wrong, Park said. This could destroy any chance of peaceful first contact with alien civilizations. Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Maybe they were not human people, but they were still people. They had thoughts and feelings and families they wanted to protect. Let me ask you something, she said to the room. Why did we build the Defiance? Why did humanity spend 10 years and $1 trillion creating the most powerful warship we have ever made? To defend Earth, said. To explore new worlds, said Park. To make sure humanity has a place in the galaxy, said Tors. Shook her head. We built the Defiance because we learned something from our history. We learned that evil only wins when good people do nothing. We learned that someone has to be willing to stand up to bullies, even when it is dangerous. She turned to face them. These Void Syndicate people are bullies. They attack peaceful colonies and steal people to sell as slaves. Right now, they think no one will stop them. They think they can do whatever they want because they are strong and their victims are weak. Picked up her command tablet and started entering orders. Well, they are about to learn that humanity does not tolerate bullies. We might be new to this galaxy, but we are not new to fighting for what is right. The room fell silent. Finally, Director Park spoke up. What if you are too late? What if the colony has already fallen? Then we will make sure the syndicate pays for what they did, said. And we will make sure every other bully in the galaxy knows that hurting innocent people has consequences. 4 hours later, the UES Defiance left the solar system at faster-than-light speed, heading toward a distant star where aliens had asked for help. Admiral and her crew did not know if they would arrive in time. They did not know if they could win against 12 enemy ships. They only knew that somewhere in the darkness, people were waiting for someone to care enough to try. The space around 442B was full of enemy ships. 12 massive vessels hung in orbit around the planet, their dark hulls reflecting the light of the distant star. They looked like giant metal predators surrounding their prey. Suddenly, a new ship appeared at the edge of the system. Space twisted and bent as the UES Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The human warship was smaller than the Syndicate vessels, but it moved with purpose and determination. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral studied the tactical display. Her ship had traveled farther than any human vessel had ever gone before. They were completely alone, 47 light-years from home, facing an enemy they knew nothing about. 12 ships confirmed, reported Lieutenant from the sensor station. All of them are larger than us. Their weapons are powered up and ready. What about the colony? Asked. I am detecting explosions on the surface, said Commander from the communication station. The attack is still ongoing. There are survivors down there. Felt relief and anger at the same time. Relief because they had arrived in time to save some people. Anger because the enemy was still hurting innocent civilians while she watched. "Sir, we are being scanned," announced. "All 12 enemy ships are turning toward us." The largest syndicate vessel moved closer to the Defiance. It was 3 times bigger than the human ship, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. On the bridge of that ship, Commander Or was studying readings about this new arrival with amusement. Or was a creature with 4 arms and yellow eyes. He had been raiding colonies for 20 years, and no one had ever dared to challenge his fleet. The ship approaching him looked primitive and weak. Its hull was made of simple metal instead of the advanced materials his people used. Its weapons seemed basic compared to syndicate technology. "What species is this?" he asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, Commander. We have never seen ships like this before. Their technology appears to be very basic." Or laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Probably some primitive species that just discovered faster-than-light travel. They have no idea what they are facing." He activated the communication system and sent a message to the human ship. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Or of the Void Syndicate. You are interfering with a legal salvage operation. Leave this system immediately or you will be destroyed." On the Defiance, listened to the alien's threats with a cold expression. Around her, the bridge crew waited for orders. They were scared but ready to fight. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. "Commander, open a channel to all ships in the system," ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." His voice was calm and steady as she spoke. "This is Admiral Sarah of the United Earth ship Defiance. You have 30 seconds to cease all hostile actions against the colony and withdraw from this system. If you do not comply, we will remove you by force." Or could not believe what he was hearing. This single primitive ship was threatening his entire fleet. He had 12 dreadnoughts armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. What could one small vessel possibly do against him? "Human," he said, speaking the word like it tasted bad. "You are either very brave or very stupid. My fleet could destroy your ship with one shot. Turn around and go home before I decide to add your species to my slave collection." His response came immediately. 20 seconds, Commander." Or's officers looked at each other nervously. This human captain seemed completely unafraid. Most species would have run away by now, but the human ship was not moving. It just hung in space, waiting. "Sir," said the tactical officer, "should we attack?" Or studied the readings again. The human ship was definitely weaker than his vessels. Its shields were basic, its weapons were primitive, and it was badly outnumbered. There was no logical reason for it to stay and fight. But something about the situation made him uncomfortable. In all his years of raiding, he had never met a species that would challenge a superior force without some kind of advantage. Maybe the humans had hidden weapons or allies nearby. 10 seconds, came the human admiral's voice. Or made his decision. "All ships, prepare to fire. Let us show these humans what happens when primitive species challenge the syndicate." But before he could give the attack order, something unexpected happened. The human ship moved. The Defiance did not turn and run like Or expected. Instead, it accelerated directly toward his fleet. It moved faster than the syndicate sensors had predicted, using its momentum to swing around a small asteroid and disappear behind it. "Where did it go?" Or shouted. "Behind asteroid C-47, the tactical officer replied. "It is using the rock for cover." "Destroy the asteroid, destroy everything." The syndicate ships opened fire, their plasma beams turning the asteroid into glowing debris. But when the smoke cleared, the human ship was gone again. It had used the explosion as cover to move to a new position. Suddenly, alarms started blaring on Or's ship. "Sir, we are under attack." The Defiance had appeared behind the syndicate formation, moving so fast that it seemed to teleport from place to place. Instead of fancy energy weapons, It fired simple metal slugs from magnetic. The slugs moved at incredible speed, punching through syndicate shields like they were made of paper. "Impossible," Orr said as he watched one of his ships take damage. "How are primitive weapons penetrating our defenses?" What he did not understand was that humans did not fight like other species. While aliens focused on creating elegant energy weapons and sophisticated defenses, humans had perfected the art of hitting things very hard with very dense objects. A slug of depleted uranium moving at 30%, the speed of light, could penetrate almost anything. But the real difference was not in the weapons. It was in how the weapons were being used. The human admiral was not fighting like a civilized commander who followed rules and traditions. She was fighting like a predator that had been hunting and being hunted for millions of years. She used every asteroid, every gravity field, and every shadow as a weapon. The Defiance fired a spread of nuclear torpedoes and then disappeared behind the planet's moon. When the Syndicate ships moved to follow, they found the human vessel waiting in ambush. It's already locked onto their weak points. "This is not how space battles are supposed to work," Orr's tactical officer said in confusion. He was right. In civilized warfare, fleets faced each other in formation and exchanged fire until one side surrendered. But humans had never learned to fight civilized wars. They had learned to fight for survival against impossible odds, using cunning and determination to overcome superior enemies. Admiral was not just commanding a ship. She was commanding a crew of humans who had evolved from persistence hunters, creatures that could track prey across continents without giving up. They did not fight until it became difficult. They fought until they won or died trying. And the Void Syndicate was about to learn what that meant. The battle that followed changed how the galaxy understood warfare forever. Commander Orr watched in growing horror as his superior fleet was torn apart by tactics he had never seen before. The human ship did not fight like other species. It did not stay in formation or follow the accepted rules of space combat. Instead, it moved like a wild animal, striking without warning and disappearing before his ships could respond. "Target the human vessel with all weapons," he ordered desperately. But targeting the Defiance was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Admiral used every piece of matter in the system as cover or as a weapon. She slingshot around the planet's gravity well to build up speed, then used that momentum to ram through a syndicate formation before they could react. When the enemy tried to corner her near an asteroid belt, did something that made no sense to alien military thinking. Instead of avoiding the dangerous rocks, she flew directly into the thickest part of the field. The Syndicate ships followed, confident they could trap her there. They were wrong. The human ship moved through the spinning asteroids like it belonged there, had trained her crew for this exact situation. Lieutenant calculated trajectories in his head, while Commander used the ship's point defense guns to nudge asteroids into new paths. Within minutes, they had turned the asteroid field into a weapon. "Incoming rocks," shouted the tactical officer on Orr's ship. The Syndicate vessels found themselves dodging massive chunks of stone that seemed to appear from nowhere. Two ships collided with asteroids that had been knocked into their path by precise human calculations. A third ship tried to escape, but ran straight into a wall of debris that the Defiance had carefully positioned. "How are they doing this?" Orr demanded. His officers had no answer. The Syndicate had advanced computers and sophisticated sensors, but they relied on their technology to do the thinking for them. Humans had learned to fight by using their brains, not just their machines. The Defiance emerged from the asteroid field and launched a full spread of nuclear torpedoes at the nearest Syndicate ship. But these were not ordinary nuclear weapons. Human engineers had spent decades perfecting the art of making explosions as destructive as possible. Each torpedo carried a fusion warhead designed to crack planets open. The Syndicate ship's shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The hull, made of advanced alien metals, melted like ice in a furnace. The explosion was so bright that it temporarily blinded the sensors on every other ship in the system. Retreat, or ordered. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. But Admiral was not going to let them escape. She had seen the burning cities on the planet below. She had listened to the desperate calls for help from alien families hiding in underground shelters. These raiders had come here to hurt innocent people, and she intended to make sure they never hurt anyone again. The Defiance pursued the fleeing syndicate vessels like an ancient predator chasing wounded prey. Had studied every human military victory in history, from ancient battles fought with spears and shields to modern conflicts waged with satellites and drones. She knew that the key to winning was not having the best weapons, but having the strongest will to use them. "Plot a course that takes us past both suns," she ordered. "Admiral, that is incredibly dangerous. The radiation will cook us alive." "Not if we do it right. Reroute all power to the forward shields. We are going to scare these bastards to death." The Defiance dove toward the binary star system at the center of 442. The two massive suns orbited each other in a dance that had been going on for billions of years, creating gravitational fields that could tear ships apart and radiation that could kill anyone foolish enough to get too close. The syndicate ships watched in disbelief as the human vessel used the stars themselves as a weapon, flew close enough to the first sun to superheat her ship's hull, then used the gravity to whip around at incredible speed toward the second star. The maneuver was so dangerous that any mistake would have meant instant death, but it gave her exactly the velocity she needed. The Defiance shot out from behind the second sun like a bullet fired from the hand of God. It was moving so fast that the syndicate ships barely had time to realize what was happening before the human opened fire. Metal slugs traveling at relativistic speeds punched through alien armor like it was made of paper. One syndicate dreadnought lost its entire command section. Another had its engines blown apart and began tumbling helplessly through space. A third ship tried to turn away, but received a full spread of human torpedoes directly in its reactor core. "Impossible," or whispered as he watched his fleet die around him. "These humans fight like demons." He was not entirely wrong. Humans had evolved from creatures that survived by being more vicious and determined than anything else on their planet. They had spent millions of years learning to fight dirty, to use every advantage, and to never give up no matter how hopeless things seemed. The aliens in the galaxy fought wars like games, with rules and limitations and concepts of honor. Humans fought wars like their children's lives depended on it, because they usually did. The battle lasted 3 more hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after that moment. One by one, the syndicate ships were destroyed or disabled. Some tried to flee, but hunted them down using tactics that would have impressed every human general from Sun to. When the last enemy vessel finally exploded in a ball of superheated plasma, the space around 442B was quiet except for the crackling of cooling debris. The UES Defiance hung motionless among the wreckage, its hull but intact. On the planet below, the surviving emerged from their hiding places to see something they had never expected. The sky was clear of enemy ships. The invasion was over. Someone had actually come to save them. Administrator stood in the ruins of his crystal city and looked up at the stars. For the first time in days, he felt hope. His people had survived, and they had learned something important about the galaxy. Somewhere out there, among all the species that had refused to help, there was one that would cross the void to protect strangers. And that species was called humanity. 3 days after the battle, Admiral stood in the ruins of New Harmony's Central Plaza. The crystal buildings around her were cracked and broken, but the people were alive. Children played among the debris while their parents worked to repair the damage. It was not perfect, but it was hope. Approached her with slow, respectful steps. The administrator still could not quite believe what had happened. A single human ship had destroyed an entire syndicate fleet that the rest of the galaxy had been afraid to challenge. "Admiral," he said in careful English, "my people do not have words to express our gratitude. You saved us from slavery and death, but I must ask you something that has been troubling me." Nodded. She was tired and her ship needed repairs, but she had time for the questions of the people she had saved. "Why did you come?" asked. "Your species had nothing to gain from helping us. We are strangers from a distant star. Your government must have told you it was too dangerous." Looked around at the families working together to rebuild their homes. It reminded her of human communities after natural disasters, when people helped each other without being asked. "Where I come from," she said, "we have a saying. It goes like this: the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We came because doing nothing was not an option." Translated her words for the other who had gathered around them. They spoke among themselves in their musical language, then turned back to the Admiral. "My people want to know if all humans are like you." Smiled. "We have our problems just like everyone else. But yes, most humans would have made the same choice. We do not like bullies." What she did not tell him was that the consequences of that choice were already spreading across the galaxy faster than light itself. The news of humanity's intervention had reached every major civilization within 48 hours. The story was incredible and impossible to ignore. A previously unknown species had traveled across the galaxy to save strangers, then defeated a feared enemy fleet in a battle that military experts were still trying to understand. On the of the Alliance, Defense Minister read the tactical reports with growing amazement. According to Syndicate survivors, the humans had used primitive kinetic weapons and nuclear explosives to destroy ships with much more advanced technology. "How is this possible?" she asked her military advisors. "We are not certain," replied General N. "The human tactics were completely unconventional. They seemed to approach warfare as a form of three-dimensional thinking rather than following established patterns." Studied the battle recordings that had been recovered from Syndicate data cores. The human ship moved like no vessel she had ever seen, using gravity wells and stellar phenomena as weapons. It was crude and dangerous, but undeniably effective. "What do we know about this human species?" "Very little. They appear to be from a system near the edge of the galaxy. Their technology is roughly equivalent to what we had 500 years ago, but they use it in ways we never considered. And they risked their most advanced ship to save aliens they had never met." "Yes, Minister. There was no strategic benefit to their intervention. They gained nothing except the gratitude of the." Felt a chill of fear and excitement. In a galaxy where most species fought only when forced to, where alliances were based on mutual benefit and careful calculation, a new player had emerged. A species that would fight for moral reasons rather than practical ones. That made them either the most valuable allies possible or the most dangerous enemies. Similar conversations were taking place on dozens of worlds across known space. The Fleet Command was analyzing human tactics and wondering if their own strategies were obsolete. The Galactic Council was debating whether to contact humanity officially or wait to see what they would do next. But the most important reaction came from the enemies of peace and freedom. In hidden bases and secret fleets, the galaxy's predators watched the news with growing concern. For years, they had operated with impunity, knowing that civilized species would not interfere in conflicts that did not directly affect them. Now there was a species that would interfere, a species that would travel across the galaxy to stop injustice, regardless of the cost or risk. The comfortable assumption that evil could operate safely in distant corners of space was no longer true. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral received a priority message from Earth. The UN Space Command wanted her to return immediately for debriefing and to answer questions from every government on the planet. Humanity's first contact with alien civilizations had been a military one, and everyone wanted to know what happened next. But before she left, had one more duty to perform. She stood before the assembled survivors of New Harmony and activated her ship's recording system. Her words would be transmitted across the galaxy, carried by the same faster-than-light networks that had spread news of the battle. "To all species who might be listening," she began, "my name is Admiral Sarah of the United Earth Space Navy. 3 days ago, the people of this colony asked for help and no one answered. That is why my ship came here." She paused and looked at the children playing in the ruins around her. "We want every peaceful species in the galaxy to know this. If you are threatened by those who would hurt innocent people, call for help. Earth may be far away and humans may be new to the stars, but we will answer. We will come." The message ended, but its implications would echo across the galaxy for generations. Admiral returned to her ship and set course for home. The Defiance was damaged and her crew was exhausted, but they had accomplished something remarkable. They had announced to the galaxy that humanity would not stand by while evil prospered. As the stars shifted around them during the long journey home, knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer an isolated species on the edge of known space. They were now part of something larger, with responsibilities they had never imagined. The galaxy was full of predators and prey, of the strong and the weak, of those who took and those who gave. But now it had something new, a species that would fight for others simply because it was right. And that would make all the difference.